The gravel crunched under Juliet's boots like bones snapping in the quiet night, her shadow long and fierce as she stepped between Emma and the circle of jeering boys from Monroe High. "Touch her again," Juliet whispered, her voice a low thunder that silenced the humid air. "And I'll bury you in the red clay where no one finds the likes of you." Emma's heart hammered not from fear, but from the sudden, searing realization that blood could shield you one moment and shatter you the next. In the sweltering summer of 1998, Monroe, Georgia, clung to its secrets like Spanish moss to ancient live oaks. The town sprawled along the Oconee River, a patchwork of white-columned mansions on one side of the tracks and shotgun shacks on the other, where the air hummed with cicadas and the faint rot of forgotten dreams. Emma Harlan, 15 and all sharp edges under her faded flannel, had learned early that fitting in was a luxury she couldn't afford. Her family teetered on the wrong side of that invisible line. Daddy fixing trucks at the mill until his hands bled rust, Mama stitching uniforms at the factory, their home a sagging bungalow with peeling blue paint that whispered apologies to the wind. Juliet, 3 years older and built like the storm clouds that rolled in from the Atlantic, was Emma's anchor in that unsteady world. She had the Harlan fire, dark hair cropped short like a dare, eyes the color of storm-tossed bay water, and a reputation that kept the shadows at bay. At 18, Juliet was already the girl who fixed engines blindfolded and stared down preachers who preached too long about sin. She worked weekends at the diner on Main Street, slinging hash browns with a smile that hid the weight of her own unspoken burdens. "We're Harlans," she'd say, tossing Emma a wildflower plucked from the riverbank. "We bend, but we don't break." School was where the bending hurt most. Monroe High was a brick fortress of conformity, its hallways echoing with the drawl of futures already scripted. Football stars to state colleges, debutantes to sorority rows, and everyone else to the mill or the methadone clinic. Emma didn't fit the script. She was too quiet, too watchful, her notebooks filled with sketches of women from old movies. Audrey Hepburn with a cigarette, Lauren Bacall with a gaze that could unravel thread. The boys noticed. They always did. It started with whispers. "Harlan's got that look like she's waitin' for the devil's invitation." Then came the shoves in the locker room, the notes stuffed in her locker spelling out words that tasted like bile. One afternoon in late September it escalated. Emma lingered after algebra, tracing the grain of her desk, when Tommy Reeves and his pack cornered her by the bleachers. Tommy, broad-shouldered heir to the Reeves lumber fortune, grinned like a fox in a henhouse. "What's the matter, Harlan? You sweet on Miss Ellis's poetry class a little too much." His friends laughed, a chorus of cruelty that drowned the distant hum of the marching band. They pushed her against the chain-link fence, the metal biting into her back, and Tommy's hand clamped her shoulder, his breath hot with cheap beer stolen from his daddy's garage. Emma froze, the world narrowing to the pulse in her ears. She thought of the river, how it swallowed secrets without a ripple. But before she could summon words or flight, a shadow detached from the oak grove. Juliet. She moved like a panther through tall grass, her diner apron still tied around her waist, grease stains blooming like accusations. "Let her go," Juliet said, her voice steady as the river's current. Tommy turned, smirk fading into uncertainty. Juliet Harlan wasn't just any sister. She was the girl who'd once bloodied a senior's nose for catcalling a waitress, the one whose glare could curdle milk. The boys hesitated, but Tommy puffed his chest. "This ain't your business, Jules." Juliet stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his with a quiet ferocity that made the air thicken. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "Everything that touches my sister is my business. You want to test that, Reeves? Right here, with the whole town watchin' from their porches." The threat hung there, laced with the unspoken truth of Monroe's fragile peace. Scandals traveled faster than floods, and the Reeves name couldn't afford mud on its boots. Tommy released Emma with a shove, muttering curses as his pack slunk away toward their pickup trucks. Juliet pulled Emma to her feet, brushing dirt from her sleeve with hands that trembled only slightly. "You okay?" she asked, her thumb lingering on Emma's wrist, a touch that spoke of fortresses built from shared silences. Emma nodded, throat tight, the warmth of that protection seeping into bones she'd thought brittle. They walked home in the fading light, fireflies winking like conspirators, and for the first time, Emma felt the sharp ache of something beyond fear. Gratitude, fierce and unyielding. That night, as rain pattered on the tin roof like impatient fingers, Juliet sat on the edge of Emma's bed, the room lit by a single bulb that cast long shadows across posters of distant cities. New York spires, California waves. "Those boys are cowards," Juliet said, twisting a lock of her hair. "They pick on what's different because they're scared of it in themselves." Emma lay back, staring at the ceiling cracks that mapped out escape routes in her mind. "Why me?" she whispered, the question slipping out like a confession. Juliet leaned in, her voice soft as kudzu vines. "Because you're real, Em. In a town full of masks, you're the one without one." She squeezed Emma's hand, a pact sealed in the humid dark. From then on, Juliet was everywhere. Walking Emma to class, sharing lunches under the magnolia tree, her presence a shield against the whispers that followed like smoke. The bullies backed off, their taunts reduced to sidelong glares, and Emma bloomed in that fragile safety. She started speaking up in English lit, her voice gaining edges sharp as Juliet's wit. They dreamed aloud on porch swings. Juliet of Atlanta's lights, Emma of books that didn't end in tragedy. But dreams in Monroe had thorns. The Harlan name carried whispers of its own. Daddy's drinking after the mill layoffs, Mama's quiet tears over bills that piled like autumn leaves. Juliet bore it all with a grin, but Emma saw the cracks. The way her sister's laughter rang hollow after shifts that stretched till midnight. Still, in those stolen evenings, fishing poles dangling over the river, they were unbreakable. "Someday," Juliet promised, reeling in a bass that thrashed like trapped secrets, "we'll leave this town in the dust. You and me against the world." Emma believed her. How could she not? Juliet was the sun breaking through Georgia haze, the one who defended her not with fists alone, but with a love that felt like home. Yet even then, in the quiet spaces between words, Emma felt the stirrings of something deeper, a pull toward Juliet's strength, her laugh, the curve of her jaw in profile against sunset. She buried it like wildflowers pressed in a diary, telling herself it was just sisterly awe. But in the dead of night, when thunder rolled and the world slept, Emma wondered if love could wear so many faces, and if any of them were forgivable in a town that forgave nothing. As autumn deepened, the protection held, but the air grew heavier with unspoken truths. Emma's sketches shifted, women entwined in quiet embraces, their eyes holding storms. She hid them under her mattress, heart racing at the rustle of pages. Juliet noticed her withdrawal, the way Emma's gaze lingered too long on passing girls at the county fair. "Talk to me," she'd urge over stolen sips of Daddy's bourbon hidden in the barn. Emma deflected with jokes, but the questions festered, a slow burn under her skin. Winter brought the first real fracture. Christmas lights twinkled like false promises along Main Street, but the Harlan house stayed dark, money too tight for extravagance. At the church potluck, Reverend Hale pulled Juliet aside after grace, his voice oily with concern. "Your sister's been distant. Keep an eye, child. The devil finds the lonely ones." Juliet nodded, jaw tight, but later, as snow dusted the pines, a rarity in Georgia, she confronted Emma by the woodpile. "What's eating you? You can tell me anything." Emma chopped kindling with borrowed fury, splinters flying like accusations. The words clawed up her throat. "I think I like girls. Like really like them." But fear glued them down. Instead she muttered, "Just school. Nothing." Juliet's eyes searched hers, seeing too much, and for a moment the shield slipped. "We're in this together, Em. Always." She pulled her into a hug that smelled of pine and promise, and Emma clung, inhaling the lie they both pretended was truth. Spring unfurled with dogwoods blooming pink as blush, and Juliet's 18th birthday marked a turning point. She landed a scholarship to Emory, partial, but enough to escape the mill's shadow. "This is it," she told Emma, packing her duffel in the dim light of their shared room. "You hold down the fort, little sis. Graduate, get out. Find your fire." Emma forced a smile, but inside panic bloomed like kudzu. Without Juliet, who would stand between her and the world? The night before Juliet left, they sat on the riverbank, feet dangling in the cool current. Fireflies danced, mirroring the sparks in Juliet's eyes as she spoke of Atlanta's pulse, its hidden jazz clubs and streets alive with possibility. Promise me you'll be brave, she said, linking pinkies in their childhood vow. Emma nodded, throat burning. Promise you'll come back. Juliet laughed, soft and sure. For you? Always. But promises in Monroe were as fragile as mayflies. Juliet boarded the Greyhound at dawn, waving from the window until the bus curved out of sight. Emma watched until exhaust faded, the emptiness settling like dust. School resumed its grind, the bullies emboldened by absence. Whispers grew bolder. Harlan's sister ditched her. Guess she's not worth protecting now. Emma endured, sketching Juliet's face in margins, her protection a ghost in every hallway. Summer arrived with heat that warped the air, and letters flowed like the river. Juliet scrawled with tales of city lights, Emma's guarded with small victories. Then in July Emma met Lena. She was a transfer from Savannah, all freckles and borrowed books, with a laugh that cut through the diner's grease. They bonded over Vonnegut in the library, Lena's knee brushing Emma's under the table, sending sparks up her spine. For the first time Emma felt seen, not as Juliet's shadow but as herself. It happened slow then all at once. Stolen glances at the fair, hands linking in the dark of the Ferris wheel. Lena's kiss under the weeping willow by the creek tasted like freedom, sweet and terrifying. Emma confessed in whispers, I think I'm gay. Lena smiled, unafraid. Good. So am I. They carved their initials into the bark, a secret etched in eternity. But Monroe had eyes everywhere. Whispers reached the church, then Daddy's shop. When Juliet came home for Labor Day, the air crackled with tension. She arrived tanned and transformed, Emery's polish glinting like new money. Over Mama's pot roast, Daddy cleared his throat. Your sister's got troubles. Juliet's fork paused, eyes flicking to Emma's bowed head. Later in the barn, Juliet cornered her. Is it true? About you and that Savannah girl? Emma's world tilted. Juliet, the words tumbled. The pull, the kiss, the ache that had named itself. Juliet's face hardened, not with disgust but something sharper, fear. This town's poison. You can't. We can't afford this. She paced, hands raking her hair. I defended you from those boys because you're my blood. But this? It's suicide here. Emma reached for her, desperate. You're supposed to protect me. Like always. Juliet recoiled, the old fire dimming to embers. I can't protect you from yourself. Not like this. The words landed like a slap, echoing in the rafters. Juliet left at midnight, her taillights vanishing into the dark. No goodbye, no pinky promise. The shield was gone, rusted through with betrayal. Emma shattered in silence, Lena's hand her only tether. But the town closed in, and by fall, Lena's family pulled her back to Savannah. Whispers of scandal too loud. Alone, Emma withdrew, her sketches turning to ash in the wood stove. Juliet's letters stopped, a void that swallowed hope. Monroe ground on, indifferent, its river carrying secrets downstream to oblivion. Yet in the quiet, Emma began to rebuild. She applied to colleges far north, Vermont's greens calling like a siren's song. Graduation came in a blur of cap and gown, Daddy's proud nod the only warmth. As she boarded the bus to Burlington, Emma glanced back at the bungalow, its blue paint flaking like shed skin. Juliet's absence was a scar, but scars toughened. The road ahead stretched, uncertain and vast, whispering of reinvention. In Burlington, autumn leaves carpeted the campus like a welcome mat, and Emma inhaled the chill air, crisp with possibility. UVM stone buildings housed lectures on Whitman and Woolf, voices that echoed her hidden truths. She roomed with Sarah, a painter from Portland whose canvases bled color into their dim space. Tentative at first, then bold, Emma shared her story over late-night tea. Sarah listened, her eyes kind. Family's a map, not a cage, she said. You get to redraw the lines. Classes blurred into a rhythm. Sociology seminars dissecting Southern legacies, women's studies circles where Emma's voice gained strength. She dated quietly, a barista with a poet's tongue, a folk singer whose fingers danced like fireflies. Each connection mended a thread, but Juliet's ghost lingered, a question mark in every mirror. Letters to Georgia went unanswered, Mama's replies thin with evasion. Juliet's busy with school, honey. Give her time. Winter blanketed the green mountains in snow, and Emma found solace in the campus coffeehouse, its steam-fogged windows framing debates on identity and exile. There she met Riley, a grad student from Oregon with hair like autumn wheat and a laugh that thawed the frost. Riley was unapologetic, out since 16, her tattooed arms a map of battles won. Their first date was a hike to a frozen lake, boots crunching virgin snow, breaths mingling in white plumes. "Tell me your scars," Riley said, lacing fingers as they sat on a log. The world hushed. Emma did, words spilling like meltwater. The bullies, Juliet's shield, the abandonment that cut deepest. Riley pulled her close, lips brushing temple. She was wrong. "You're not a burden. You're a revelation." That night, in Riley's apartment overlooking Church Street, they crossed thresholds Emma had only sketched. It was tender, fierce, a claiming that stitched her back together. For the first time, love felt like arrival, not apology. Spring brought cherry blossoms and Riley's proposal. "Come to Portland with me. Start fresh." Emma hesitated, the pull of Vermont's safety warring with the call of the Pacific. But Juliet's silence was a weight she couldn't carry forever. She graduated with a degree in literature, cap tossed to a sky vast as forgiveness. The drive west was a ribbon of highway, Riley's hand on her knee, radio crooning Springsteen anthems of escape. Portland greeted them with rain-kissed roses and bridges arching over the Willamette like promises kept. They settled in a hawthorn loft, brick walls echoing with laughter and the clatter of typewriters. Emma teaching high school English, Riley curating at a queer bookstore. Life wove a tapestry. Brunches at Tin Shed. Pride parades where Emma marched with signs reading, "Love is the revolution." She wrote letters to Juliet, stacks of them, mailed to the Emory address that came back undelivered. "I forgive you," one read. "But I missed the sister who saw me." Years layered like sediment. At 28, Emma proposed to Riley under a canopy of maples in Forest Park. Ring simple silver etched with river waves. Their wedding was small, on a farm in the Willamette Valley. Wildflowers in hair, vows exchanged as sunset bled gold across the hills. Friends toasted to resilience, but Emma's toast caught. "To the families we choose and the ones we mourn." Riley squeezed her hand, eyes shining with understanding. By 35, Portland had become home. Its craft breweries and food carts a balm to old wounds. Emma's classroom buzzed with kids like her younger self. Outcasts finding voices in Austin and Baldwin. She mentored a GSA club, watching teens bloom under rainbow flags. Riley's gallery shows drew crowds, her portraits capturing queer joy with unflinching grace. They talked of children, adoption papers rustling like autumn leaves. Then at 38 the call came. Mama's voice frail over crackling lines. "Juliet's sick, ovarian. Stage 4. She's asking for you." The words landed like Georgia hail, sharp and unrelenting. Emma's hand trembled on the receiver, Riley's arms wrapping around her from behind. Monroe loomed, a specter in the rain. "Go," Riley whispered. "Heal what you can." The flight south was a descent into memory, clouds parting to reveal red clay and pine spines. Monroe hadn't changed much, mansions spruced, shacks sagging further. But the diner had new vinyl booths, and the river still murmured indifferently. Mama met her at the airport, older, softer, her hug smelling of lavender and regret. "She never stopped loving you," Mama said in the car. "Just got lost." Juliet's house was a bungalow on the edge of town, not the mansion Emma had imagined for her sister's ascent. Emory led to a nursing degree, then a clinic in Atlanta, but life had bent her back. A hasty marriage to a banker named Harlan, coincidence or curse? That dissolved in infidelity, leaving her with a daughter, Lila, now 17. Cancer had come swift, chemo's toll etching lines on a face still sharp as bay water. Emma knocked, harder drum in her chest. Juliet opened the door, thinner, turban hiding bald scalp, but eyes the same, storm-tossed, searching. She breathed, the syllable a bridge over chasms. They embraced, bodies fitting like forgotten puzzles, tears salting the silence. Inside, the living room smelled of chamomile and faint decay, photos lining shelves. Juliet in scrubs, Lila gap-toothed on a swing, a faded snapshot of two girls by the river. They talked haltingly at first, skirting the wound. Juliet of her career, the patience who'd taught her grace. Emma of Portland's reigns Riley's steadiness. Lila hovered in the kitchen, all teenage curiosity in Juliet's dark hair, her gaze flicking between them like a reader piecing a plot. "Aunt Emma," she ventured, offering sweet tea with a shy smile. The title pierced, a thread pulled loose. As days blurred, truth surfaced. Juliet confessed over porch rockers at dusk, cicadas chorusing their regrets. "I was scared, Em. Of the town, of losing you to it. Thought if I pushed you away you'd hide it, stay safe." Her voice cracked. "But I broke us instead." Emma listened, anger long weathered to sorrow. "You were my hero. Then you weren't. But I survived because of the hero you showed me how to be." Lila became the bridge, her questions probing gently. "Mom says you two were inseparable. What happened?" Emma shared stories sanitized for youth. River fishings, bully standoffs, watching Juliet's face soften with memory. One evening Lila pulled out a box from under her bed. Emma's old letters, yellowed and cherished. "She read them every night," Lila whispered, "even when she pretended not to care." The cancer progressed, nights measured in morphine drips. Emma stayed, reading aloud from Wolf's Waves, Juliet's hand in hers a echo of pinky promises. "I'm proud of you," Juliet murmured one dawn, as birdsong filtered through curtains. "For being brave when I couldn't." Emma kissed her forehead, forgiveness a quiet tide. "We're Harlans. We bend." Juliet slipped away in October, leaves turning gold like alchemical grace. The funeral was small, Monroe's pews half full with clinic colleagues and wary kin. Lila clung to Emma, her grief a mirror of Emma's long-ago loss. "Don't leave," she begged after, as rain drummed the graveyard oaks. Emma held her, Riley's voice steady over the phone. "We're family now." Back in Portland, Lila visited for holidays, her laughter filling the loft like sunlight. She came out junior year, Emma's stories her compass. "You and Mom, you're why I know it's okay to be me." They hiked Multnomah Falls, water thundering secrets, and Emma felt the circle close. Years later, at 42, Emma stood on her porch. Lila, now 24, a med student with Juliet's fire, graduating nearby. Riley's ring glinted in the dusk, their adopted son toddling at her feet. The letter from Juliet, found in Lila's box, lay framed inside. "I was wrong. Love you fierce, always." Monroe was a scar, faded but felt, a reminder that shields could rust, but hearts reforged stronger. In the quiet, Emma traced the river in her mind, its current carrying not just secrets but salvations. Family wasn't blood alone. It was the chosen stand, the return against odds. And in that truth she found her peace, vast as the Pacific, enduring as Georgia clay. Portland's November fog rolled in like a reluctant confession, cloaking the bridges in gray veils that softened the city's edges. Emma Harlan, now 39, navigated the wet streets with the ease of someone who traded red clay for evergreens, her umbrella a black bloom against the drizzle. The school where she taught English loomed ahead, its brick facade etched with ivy that clung like persistent memory. Inside, the hallways buzzed with the chaos of youth, lockers slamming, laughter ricocheting off tiled walls. But Emma moved through it with a quiet authority, her satchel heavy with dog-eared copies of The Color Purple and notes for her GSA meeting after hours. Riley waited at home, their Hawthorne bungalow a sanctuary of exposed beams and bookshelves groaning under volumes of Audre Lorde and James Baldwin. Dinner simmered on the stove, kale stew with cornbread, a nod to Southern roots Emma could no longer fully bury. "How was the battlefield?" Riley asked, pulling her into a kiss that tasted of chamomile tea and unwavering support. Emma leaned into it, the day's weight easing. The usual. Tommy's essay on invisibility hit too close. Riley's eyes, warm as Willamette sunsets, held hers. "You're molding warriors, love. That's no small magic." They'd built this life thread by thread, after Emma's arrival 12 years prior. The adoption of Theo, their 4-year-old son with curls like wild brambles and questions that pierced like arrows, had sealed it. Theo was a foster placement turned forever, his laughter a counterpoint to the silences Emma still carried. Bedtime stories were rituals. Goodnight moon laced with whispers of "you're safe here, always." Riley tucked him in tonight, her voice a lullaby, while Emma lingered in the doorway, heart swelling at the tableau. This was the family she'd redrawn, line by deliberate line. Yet as autumn deepened, a restlessness stirred. It began with a package on the porch, brown paper crinkled like old skin, postmarked Atlanta. Inside, a worn journal, Juliet's script slanting across pages yellowed by time. No note, just the book, heavy with absence. Emma traced the cover, leather cracked like parched earth, and opened to the first entry. September 1998. M's eyes today, full of storms I can't chase. God protect her from this town. The words blurred, ink and tears mingling. Riley found her there, curled on the rug, journal splayed like an autopsy. Juliet, she guessed, settling beside her. Emma nodded, throat tight. It's hers. From Emory days. How? The journal spanned Juliet's college years, a chronicle of ambition shadowed by guilt. Pages detailed late-night shifts at a crisis hotline, the thrill of anatomy labs where bodies yielded secrets, interspersed with pleas. I dream of M by the river, her hand in mine. What kind of sister abandons that? Emma read voraciously, each entry a bridge half-built. By December she'd reached the end. Juliet's marriage proposal to Harlan. A man whose steadiness promised escape from scandal's echo. He's safe. For Lila, for us. But M. Forgive me. The discovery unearthed more than words. It cracked open the vault of unanswered questions. Emma penned a letter to the Atlanta address scrawled in the flyleaf. Words pouring like rain. I don't hate you. I miss the us we were. She mailed it with trembling hands, half expecting silence. Weeks passed, the holiday lights twinkling mockingly along Division Street. Theo's first preschool Christmas pageant brought distraction. His elf costume askew, Riley filming with teary pride. But on Christmas Eve, as snow dusted the roses, a reply arrived. Not from Juliet but Lila. The envelope was crisp, scented faintly with vanilla. Dear Aunt Emma, it began, script a youthful echo of her mother's. Mom gave me your letters years ago. Said to hold them till I understood. I'm 17 now and I get it. She's sick. Cancer. Won't say how bad, but her eyes. Like she's saying goodbyes. A photo slipped out. Lila and Juliet at a park, arms linked, smiles defiant against autumn leaves. She wants to see you. Few can forgive. Emma's breath caught, the room spinning. Riley read over her shoulder, hand steady on her back. Go, she said simply. Theo and I will hold the fort. The decision settled like frost, cold but clarifying. Emma booked the flight for New Year's, packing the journal like a talisman. The journey south was a reversal of her escape. Skies shifting from Pacific slate to southern haze. Atlanta's sprawl greeted her with humidity and horns, a far cry from Monroe's hush, but the clinic's waiting room smelled of antiseptic and regret, universal as grief. Juliet emerged from a side door, her pole rattling like a reluctant companion, her frame swallowed by a sweater 2 sizes too large. Chemo had stripped her hair, but not her gaze, still Baywater sharp, now rimmed with apology. "M," she said, voice a rasp, and the hug that followed was bone-fragile yet fierce. Lila hovered, all gangly limbs and watchful eyes, introducing herself with a hug that bridged decades. "Thanks for coming." They drove to Juliet's apartment in Decatur, a modest walk-up overlooking a park where dogwoods waited for spring. Tea steeped in mismatched mugs, and conversation flowed tentative as thawing ice. Juliet spoke of her life post-Monroe, nursing school grit, the clinic where she advocated for underserved women, the marriage that crumbled under Harlan's affairs. Lila was the light, she said, glancing at her daughter who blushed over her mug. Kept me from unraveling. Emma shared Portland's layers. Teaching's joys, Riley's art, Theo's boundless curiosity. The journal bridged gaps. You kept it all, Juliet marveled, fingers tracing entries. I wrote to exorcise the guilt. Never sent a one. Lila listened, piecing her mother's fragments. She talked about you non-stop. Emma's the brave one, she'd say. Made me jealous, almost. As days stretched, bonds knit. Mornings in the park, Lila and Emma jogging paths lined with magnolias, trading stories of Juliet's heroics, the time she fixed a stranger's tire in a storm, or defended a patient from a doctor's dismissal. Afternoons at the clinic, Emma reading aloud while Juliet napped, her snores a rhythm of vulnerability. Evenings, the three cooked, gumbo from memory, laughter bubbling as spices spilled. but undercurrents pulled. One night, rain lashing windows, Juliet confessed deeper. After you came out, I panicked. Harlan's family was old money, sniffing for weakness. I thought, if I cut ties, you'd move on, find safety. Her eyes glistened. Stupid. I lost you twice, once to fear, once to pride. Emma's chest ached, old wounds pulsing. You left me exposed. I built walls because of it. Silence stretched. Then Juliet's hand found hers. I'm sorry isn't enough. But it's all I have. Lila broke the tension, pulling out photo albums. Baby Emma in Juliet's arms, river picnics, a faded prom shot of Juliet in a gown that screamed rebellion. You two look like forces, Lila said. Emma smiled, tracing a snapshot of them under fireworks. We were. The visit ended too soon, Juliet's energy waning like tide. At the airport, hugs lingered. Come back, Lila urged. For her. For us. Juliet pressed a key into Emma's palm, to the apartment. In case. The flight north carried Emma on wings of ambiguity, Portland's lights a beacon through clouds. Spring brought renewal. Theo's kindergarten finger paints, Riley's gallery opening where a portrait of Emma hung, titled River Guardian. The key stayed on her chain, a weight and a whisper. Letters from Lila arrived weekly, school dramas, Juliet's good days, drawing Emma south again in May. This time Riley joined, Theo in tow, their presence a statement of chosen kin. Juliet's eyes lit at the sight of the boy, his questions tumbling. Why no hair? Does it grow like moss? Laughter echoed, fragile but real. They picnicked by the Chattahoochee, Theo chasing ducks while adults wove narratives. Riley shared her own coming-out scars, a Midwestern farm's rejection, forging common ground. Family's what we fight for, she said, linking arms with Juliet. Lila bloomed in the mix, confiding in Emma about crushes that blurred lines. Like you and Mom? Emma teased. Lila grinned. Maybe. Or maybe just like me. Cancer's shadow lengthened. June scans brought dire words, metastasis. Juliet rallied for a family trip to Monroe, confronting ghosts. The bungalow stood repainted sage, Mama welcoming with pie and tears. Daddy Grayer gripped Emma's hand. Proud of you, girl. The riverbank picnic was cathartic. Theo splashing, Lila sketching. Juliet's voice weak but steady recounting bully tales. I was wrong to leave, she told Emma privately, feet in the current. But you thrived. That's my redemption. July blurred in hospice haze. Juliet's apartment a vigil of stories and songs. Emma read from the journal, voices mingling in harmony. Lila held vigils, her med school dreams sharpened by loss. Riley cooked, Theo's hugs a daily grace. One midnight as monitors beeped, Juliet woke. Sing that old one about the river. Emma did, voice cracking. Juliet joining faintly till sleep claimed her. She passed at dawn, sun gilding the room gold. Grief crashed like waves, but in its trough connection endured. Lila chose Portland for undergrad, the apartment sold to fund her path. You're my anchor now, she told Emma at the scattering. Ashes to the Oconee, petals floating like fireflies. Back home, Emma framed a photo. For generations by the Willamette, Theo on her shoulders, Lila beside Riley. Juliet's journal rested on the shelf, its pages a testament. Scars remained, but they mapped a life reclaimed. Love not as shield but as compass. In quiet moments, Emma felt her sister's gaze, approving, eternal. The river flowed on, carrying them all. The summer of 2025 draped Portland in a haze of heat that felt almost biblical. The Willamette sluggish under a sun that baked the city into submission. Emma Harlan, 42 now, wiped sweat from her brow as she knelt in the community garden behind their bungalow, hands buried in soil that yielded tomatoes red as old wounds. Theo, 7 and all boundless energy, darted between rows, his laughter a counterpoint to the distant hum of Mac's trains. Mama M, look, this one's as big as my head, he crowed, hoisting a fruit like a trophy. Emma smiled, the simple joy grounding her amid the undercurrent of memory that had surged since Juliet's passing 2 years prior. Riley emerged from the house, sketchpad in hand, her hair tied back with a scarf patterned in rainbows. Lunch break for the warriors, she announced, spreading a blanket under the maple whose leaves whispered secrets to the breeze. They ate in companionable silence. Quinoa salads flecked with basil from the plot, iced tea sweating condensation. Lila, 22 and home from her nursing rotation at OSU, joined them, her scrubs traded for cut-off shorts, a tattoo peeking from her sleeve, intertwined rivers inked last spring as a tribute. Shift was brutal, she sighed, popping a cherry tomato. Reminded me of Mom's stories, the ones about fighting for the overlooked. Conversation meandered to the past, as it often did these days, Lila's presence a living echo. Since Juliet's death, she'd woven into their fabric seamlessly. Summers in the garden, holidays with extended kin, late-night talks on the porch where Emma shared Harlan lore. Lila's coming out last year, over Thanksgiving turkey, voice steady as her mother's had once been, had sealed it. "I'm bi," she'd said, eyes on Emma. "Like the rivers you two loved, flowing both ways." Emma's hug had been fierce, Riley's toast raising glasses to fluidity. Yet, beneath the harmony, Emma felt the pull of unresolved tides. Juliet's journal, now a bedside companion, revealed layers in quiet readings. Entries of doubt during her marriage, quiet support for Atlanta's underground queer scene, a letter drafted but unsent to Emma post 9/11, begging reconciliation amid national grief. "She watched your life from afar," Lila had explained, sorting boxes after the funeral, clippings from Portland papers, your wedding announcement framed in her closet. The knowledge softened edges but questions lingered, like why the abandonment had carved so deep, or how Monroe's ghost still whispered in dreams. Work offered distraction. At Lincoln High, Emma's classroom was a haven, posters of Sappho and Alison Bechdel curling at edges from humidity. Her seniors dissected Fun Home, debates fierce on identity's inheritance. One afternoon, as rain finally broke the heat, a student lingered, Jordan, non-binary and sharp-tongued, eyes shadowed by Holmes' disapproval. "Miss Harlan, how do you forgive family that bails?" The question landed like a stone in still water. Emma paused, choosing words like steps on thin ice. "You don't always. Sometimes you rebuild around the hole they left." Evenings brought solace in routine, Theo's soccer practices on soggy fields, Riley's gallery critiques where Emma posed as muse. Their love had deepened with time, a quiet burn rather than flash. Mornings tangled in sheets, notes tucked in lunches quoting Dickinson. Theo's adoption anniversary approached, a date marked with cake and stories of his toddler mischief. "You're my forever mamas," he declared, frosting smeared like war paint. Emma's heart clenched, gratitude fierce against the ache of what Juliet had missed. Lila's internship brought her closer, shifts overlapping with Emma's at a local clinic volunteer gig. They bonded over charts and coffee, Lila's enthusiasm a mirror of Juliet's early fire. "You'd have loved this," Emma told her one dusk, as they walked the Pearl District's murals, streetlights flickering to life. Lila nodded, linking arms. "She did in her way. Taught me to fight quiet like you." The compliment warmed but stirred the sediment. Emma's own fight had been born of abandonment, a forge of solitude. The turning point came in August, a letter from Monroe's Historical Society, yellowed envelope, postmark faded. Inside, an invitation to the town's sesquicentennial, a plaque dedication for local heroes, Juliet nominated posthumously for her clinic work. "Your presence would honor her legacy," it read, signed by Reverend Hale's successor, a woman with progressive ink. Emma stared at the paper, pulse quickening. Monroe, after all these years, a summons or a trap? Riley found her at the kitchen table, letter splayed. "Going?" she asked, pouring wine. Emma traced the seal, wax cracked like resolve. "Part of me wants to burn it. Part wants to stand where she couldn't." Lila, overhearing from the hall, chimed in. "We go. Show them Harlan's don't fade." Theo piped up from his puzzle. "Adventure." The consensus tilted and tickets booked for September. Theo's first flight a bubble of excitement. The return was layered, Atlanta's airport a gateway to memory. Rental car humming south, Lila drove, Emma shotgun, Riley and Theo in back with audiobooks of folktales. Monroe unfolded unchanged yet altered. Main Street boutiques replacing feed stores, pride flags subtle on porches, progress's tentative footprint. The bungalow, now Mama's alone since Daddy's passing, welcomed with hugs and ham biscuits. Mama, silver-haired and stoic, pressed albums into Emma's hands. Juliet's favorites. "Take what calls." The ceremony loomed, but first reconciliation's quiet work. Emma walked the river alone at dawn, gravel familiar under boots, water murmuring absolution. Fireflies were gone, but dragonflies skimmed the surface iridescent scouts. She sat where Juliet once stood sentinel, tears tracing paths long dry. You left, but you came back in her, she whispered to the current. Lila joined later, casting stones. Mom said Monroe shaped us wrong, but we reshaped it. Townfolk approached cautiously at the diner. Former classmates with apologies mumbled over coffee. Tommy Reeves gray-suited and humbled, his lumber yard green now. Heard about Juliet. She was something. Emma nodded. Grace practiced art. The plaque unveiling drew a crowd under oaks draped in Spanish moss. Speeches lauding Juliet's compassion. Lila spoke, voice steady. She defended the vulnerable, starting with her sister. That's the Harlan way. Eyes met Emma's, a nod across the divide. Post-ceremony, a reception at the community center brimmed with potluck spreads and bluegrass fiddles. Mama danced with Theo, her laughter rare and bright. Riley mingled, her Oregon candor disarming drawls. Emma slipped out to the porch, air thick with jasmine, when a woman approached, mid-40s, red hair coiled like secrets. Emma Harlan? I'm Clara Voss. Used to be Reeves. Tommy's sister. The name stirred Silt. Clara, the debutante who'd once sneered from afar. Now her eyes held regret's patina. I knew about the bullies. Did nothing. Juliet. She scared us straight, but I should have stepped up. The confession cracked something, Emma's response measured. We all carry those silences. Clara nodded, pressing a book into her hands. Local history, Juliet's photo on the cover. For your boy. Teach him we're changing. The gesture lingered as Emma rejoined the fray, the night weaving forgiveness into its warp. Back in Portland, the trip's residue settled like fertile loam. Emma incorporated Monroe tales into lessons, students leaning into stories of sisters and rivers. Lila's rotation extended, her presence a constant. One evening as leaves turned, Theo asked, was Aunt Jules a hero like in books? Emma pulled him close, Riley and Lila flanking. More than that. She was family, flawed, fierce hours. October brought harvest festivals, pumpkins carved with river motifs. Emma's novel draft, fiction veiled in truth, sisters navigating divides, gained an agent, pages whispering of healing. Dreams of Juliet shifted. No longer accusations but shared walks by water. The scar remained but it no longer bled. It breathed, a vital mark. In November's chill, Emma stood by the Willamette, Lila at her side, Theo skipping stones. She'd love this, Lila said, watching ripples expand. Emma smiled, the circle complete. Legacy wasn't perfection. It was return, the bold step across chasms. And in that Harlan's endured, not bending but flowing, eternal as the river's song. Winter 2025 gripped Portland with uncharacteristic ferocity, snow blanketing the city in a hush that muffled even the ever-present rain. Emma Harlan bundled against the cold, her breath fogging the air as she trudged to the mailbox, Theo's mittened hand swinging in hers. The bundle inside was unassuming. A manila envelope from Georgia, return address a law firm in Macon. What's that, Mama? Theo asked, snowflakes melting on his lashes. Emma tore it open on the porch, wind whipping pages. Juliet's will, finalized in her final lucid weeks. Provisions were simple. Clinic mementos to Lila, riverfront land to Mama, and to Emma, a trust for Theo's education, seeded with Juliet's savings, and a letter sealed with wax. Read it alone, the note instructed, Lila's handwriting. Inside the loft, fire crackling in the hearth, Emma broke the seal. If you're reading this, I've crossed over. Forgive the dramatics, nurse's habit. The money's practical. You deserve it for raising my girl right. But the real bequest? Lila. She's yours as much as mine. Teach her the Harlan fire, the one I dimmed. And know this, I never stopped watching. Your wedding photo sits by my bed. You built beauty from my breaking. Love, Jules. Tears trace silent paths, the words a bomb and blade. Riley found her there, journal and letter entwined. Heavy, she murmured, settling close. Emma nodded, leaning into her solidity. She saw us. All of it. Lila arrived that evening, fresh from shift, her eyes knowing. Mom planned it, said you'd fight her on the money. They laughed through tears, Theo oblivious in his fort of blankets demanding cocoa. The trust was a bridge, funding Theo's art classes, but the letter reshaped silences. Lila stayed for dinner, conversation circling to Monroe's changes, Pride events now annual, the old diner rainbowlit. Spring thawed the resolve. Emma's novel, Riverbend Reckoning, found a publisher. Its jacket a stylized oak over water. Launch parties buzzed with queer-lit crowds. Riley beaming as Emma read passages of sisterly strife. Lila attended, her pride evident. You made her real again. Tours took Emma east, Burlington readings evoking UVM ghosts. Atlanta signings where clinic colleagues shared Juliet anecdotes. In Savannah, by Lena's old haunts, she lingered at a bookstore, fingers tracing spines, closure a quiet exhale. Theo's questions deepened with age. Why didn't Aunt Jules visit more? Emma answered honestly, over park benches slick with dew. Fear kept her away. But love brought her back, in stories and surprises. He nodded, wisdom beyond years, then dashed to swings, leaving Emma to ponder the cycles. Riley's gallery mounted a show. Familial currents, portraits of their quartet against watery backdrops. Critics praised the intimacy, one review noting, Harlan's gaze captures not just faces but forgiveness. Lila's graduation loomed, nursing degree, cap and gown a echo of Emma's own. Preparations wove them tighter. Dress fittings in the pearl, mock toasts with Riley's homemade cider. To Bridges, Lila raised a glass one eve, eyes on Emma. The ones we build when others burn. The ceremony was sun-drenched. Lila's walk met with whoops from their row, Mama visiting, frail but fierce, Theo waving a sign. Go Lila. Postgrad, Lila's job offer came. Portland General Oncology Ward. Full circle, she told Emma over coffee, steam rising like ghosts. Helping where Mom left off. Apartment hunts became family affairs. Theo opining on bunk beds. Moving day, boxes stacked like monuments. Emma unearthed a Harlan relic. Juliet's old fishing rod tucked in the will's addendum. For the river, the note read. They christened it at the Willamette. Casts awkward but earnest, laughter rippling. Summer swelled with transitions. Emma's book tour extended to Georgia. Readings in Monroe's library. Once a bastion of conformity, now shelves stocked with diverse voices. Townsfolk filled seats. Clara Voss in the front row, her applause thunderous. Post-reading Q&A turned confessional. A young woman, eyes wide, asked of abandonment's echo. Emma's response drawn from marrow. It shapes you but doesn't define. Find your river, flow toward light. Back west, conflicts simmered subtly. Theo's school faced budget cuts. GSA funding threatened by board conservatives. A microcosm of larger fights. Emma rallied parents, petitions circulating like wildfire. Lila joined, her fresh advocacy sharpening edges. Riley documented in sketches, the trio a united front. Victory came narrow, funds restored, but the skirmish reminded. Progress was vigilance, not given. Autumn painted the city in fire, and Lila's first shift brought vigil. Emma paced the loft, Riley's hand steadying. Midnight call. She's okay, just exhaustion. Relief flooded but underscored fragility. Over brunch the next day, Lila confessed doubts. What if I'm not enough? Emma cupped her face, echo of Juliet's gestures. You already are. That's the Harlan gift, enoughness in the trying. November's election cycle stirred national undercurrents. Headlines of rights rolled back in red states. Monroe called Mama's voice tremulous. Things shifting here. Your book's stirring talk. Emma flew south, Lila in tow, town hall a powder keg of debates. She spoke, voice amplified by years. Change isn't charity, it's survival. Applause mixed with murmurs but seeds planted. Winter returned, holidays a tapestry. Mama visited, Theo's energy thawing her reserve. Stories flowed by the tree. Juliet's pranks, river lore. Gifts exchanged, Emma's to Lila, a locket with their photo. Lila's, a sketched map of Harlan rivers. New Year's, fireworks over the river they toasted. To flows unbroken. Emma's second book brewed. Themes of legacies wait. Dreams of Juliet clarified. Walks where apologies dissolved in water. The scar once raw, now a vein of quartz, strong and luminous. In quiet she knew. Abandonment's pain had forged not just survival but abundance. A family vast as watersheds enduring. By mid-2026, Portland's relentless drizzle had given way to an unseasonable warmth that coaxed roses into a second bloom, their petals unfurling like hesitant confessions along the bungalow's fence. Emma Harlan, 43, sat at her desk overlooking the garden, cursor blinking on a blank page for her next manuscript. The first book's success had brought invitations, podcasts dissecting Southern queer narratives, literary festivals where she shared stages with voices like her own. But today inspiration stalled, tangled in the vines of recent revelations. Lila's integration had deepened fractures in men's alike. Living blocks away in a cozy Alberta Arts walk-up, she dropped by unannounced, scrubs swapped for paint-splattered teas from Riley's studio sessions. Their bond, forged in grief's kiln, now hummed with the easy rhythm of kin brunch debriefs on patient winds, porch philosophies under string lights. Yet Lila's probing unearthed Emma's underlayers. You glossed the pain, Aunt Em. How do you really climb out of Monroe's hole? Emma's answers, once guarded, now flowed freer, but stirred dormant tempests. Theo's 8th birthday amplified it. A pirate-themed bash in Laurelhurst Park, cake smeared across cheeks, friends shrieking over treasure hunts. Amid the chaos, Lila pulled Emma aside by the duck pond, her expression shadowed. Found something in Mom's things, your letters. The ones after she left. She handed over a ribbon-tied bundle, edges frayed from handling. Emma's stomach knotted as she untied them later, alone in the attic studio. Pages dense with youthful fury. How could you defend me then vanish? Am I poison now? Juliet's margins bore faint pencil marks. Underlines, question marks like breaths held. The discovery precipitated a reckoning. Nights blurred with Riley's comfort, her arms a harbor as Emma wept silent storms. She carried them too, Riley murmured, tracing spine tattoos of waves. Guilt's heavier than abandonment. Lila joined therapy sessions, group for queer families, circles of shared scars. There Emma voiced the core wound. She made me feel unlovable in my truth. Lila's counter. She was unlovable to herself then. We break the chain. Work channeled the churn. At Lincoln High, Emma's curriculum evolved. Units on epistolary narratives, students penning letters to lost selves. Jordan, now a junior mentor, organized a zine, Echoes Unsent. Its launch drew parents, some teary at raw admissions. Board pushback followed, emails decrying indoctrination, escalating to a hearing. Emma testified, voice steady. These are mirrors, not mandates. They save lives. Allies rallied, victory bittersweet, a reminder of battles perennial. Riley's exhibit, Tidal Airs, captured the tumult. Canvases of fragmented figures merging in azure depths. Theo's grin amid abstract grief. Opening night, Lila's toast cut deep. To the women who wade through, Emma Riley, the ghosts we honor. Collectors bid fiercely. Proceeds to local youth shelters. Emma watched Lila network, her poise a Juliet rebirth, pride mingling with pang. Monroe's pull resurfaced in June. A land dispute over Juliet's river plot. Developers eyeing condos. Mama called, voice-edged. They want progress. Feels like erasure. Emma and Lila flew south. Theo in tow for adventure camp. Riley holding Portland. Monroe simmered. Coffee shop debates heated over lattes. At town hall, Emma spoke. This land's memory, not merchandise. Juliet healed here. Let it heal still. Lila backed her, charts on ecological loss. Opposition grumbled. Reeves' heirs prominent. But votes tilted preservation, a sliver of vindication. The trip unearthed more. Visits to Juliet's grave, weeds cleared, fresh wildflowers laid. Theo placed a stone painted with fish, chattering to the headstone. Aunt Jules, tell stories in heaven. Lila's laugh broke Emma's arm around her. Mama hosted a barbecue, kin gathering. Cousins with softened edges, tales of Harlan resilience. Clara Voss, now councilwoman, clinked glasses. You too? Forces. Night fell with fireflies, rare north of the Mason-Dixon, and Emma felt Juliet near in the hum. Return brought integrations tests. Lila dated a barista named Kai, non-binary and poetic, introducing over dinner, nerves electric. Theo grilled. Do you like rivers? Kai's grin disarmed the evening, weaving new threads. But Emma's envy flickered, unbidden, irrational, for the ease youth claimed. Therapy unpacked it. "You're grieving the youth she stole," the counselor noted. Emma journaled ferociously, pages filling with unsent missives to Juliet. "I wish you'd seen this fullness." Fall's equinox marked Theo's school play. The Witch of Blackbird Pond, him as a plucky orphan. Backstage jitters, Emma's pep talk echoed old Pinky vows. "Brave like Harlan." Curtain call thunder, pride swelling. Post-show, Lila confessed. "Mom would have loved this. Said you were the storyteller." The words healed a notch, Emma's novel surging. Plot of sisters' spectral dialogues, redemption in ink. November elections loomed, national anxieties spiking. Portland marched, Emma and Lila arm in arm, signs reading love endures. Theo stayed with Riley, returning with cookies and questions. "Why yell at signs?" Emma simplified. "To protect hearts like yours." The work grounded, but exhaustion crept. Sleepless nights scripting op-eds on family rights. Winter solstice brought pivot. Lila's promotion, lead nurse oncology, demanded celebration. Cabin rental in the Cascades, snowshoeing crystalline trails. Around the fire, stories cascaded. Juliet's diner escapades, Emma's Portland arrivals. Kai joined, harmonies and carols. Theo's yawn prompted bed, leaving adults to depths. "I was scared of this," Lila admitted, embers glowing, filling her space. Emma reached across. "Your addition, not replacement." New Year dawned, crisp, resolutions whispered. Emma's to publish the sequel, Lila's to travel Monroe routes with Kai. The year turned, Emma's desk alive with drafts. Dreams of Juliet evolved, collaborations, not confrontations, co-authoring futures. The bundle of letters? Burned in a backyard right, ashes to garden soil, fertilizing growth. In quiet, Emma traced the arc. From Shield's betrayal to Legacy's embrace. Payne's alchemy yielded this. Family not flawless, but fertile roots entwining across divides. Harlan's flowed on, scars as stars guiding the current. Spring 2027 burst upon Portland with a vengeance. Cherry blossoms carpeting the streets in pink confetti that danced in the breeze like fleeting joys. Emma Harlan, 44, stood at the edge of Forest Park's trails, binoculars trained on a hawk wheeling overhead. Its cry a sharp note in the symphony of rebirth. Theo, 9 now and leggy with curiosity, tugged her sleeve. "Race you to the falls?" His challenge pulled a laugh from her, the sound lighter than it had been in years, as they dashed down paths mudslick from recent rains. Lila and Kai loped behind, their hands linked, a picture of unscarred ease that both warmed and wistful Emma's heart. The novel's sequel, Delta Dialogues, had launched to acclaim, reviews praising its tender excavation of familial fault lines. Bookstores hosting readings where audiences leaned in, hungry for truths mirrored. Royalties funded a family sabbatical. Summer in Vermont, revisiting UVM's greens where Emma's reinvention began. Packing evoked ghosts. Mama's quilt for the cabin, Juliet's journal as bedtime lore for Theo. "Read The Fighting Sisters," he begged, nestled between Riley and Lila on the drive east. Burlington welcomed with lake breezes and craft brews, the cabin a lakeside A-frame with creaky floors and views of Adirondacks' hazy blue. Days blurred and idle. Kayaks slicing water, picnics under maples shedding gold. Evenings, stories by firelight. Emma recounting Monroe's gravel standoffs, Lila embellishing with clinic grit. Kai with their storyteller's lilt, woven Portland pride tales. Theo's eyes wide as saucers. Riley sketched the scenes, her portfolio swelling with candid kin portraits. Midway, a detour to Montreal. Lila's whim for poutine and history. Cobblestone streets echoed with French whispers, cafes spilling laughter onto terraces. Over crepes, Lila broached her future. Kai and I thinking commitment. Fall wedding. The announcement landed soft, joy bubbling. Emma raised her glass. To loves that stay. But inside a twinge for the wedding Juliet missed, for the parallel paths unlived. Later, lakeside, she confided in Riley. Proud but hollow echoes. Riley's embrace. Hollow fills with time's tide. Return west carried Vermont's clarity. School resumed, Emma's classroom abuzz with Delta excerpts, students crafting epics of their divides. Jordan, now senior, dedicated their college essay to her. Miss Harlan taught me scars are stories. Graduation hugs lingered, Emma's eyes pricked. Board politics eased. A new superintendent allied to GSA expansions. Lila's wedding planning infused autumn with frenzy. Venue hunts in the Willamette Valley, barn rustic with fairy lights. Emma officiated, script penned from heart. Vows echoing river promises. Ceremony day dawned misty, vineyard rows arching like cathedrals. Kai in linen suit, Lila in flowing gown etched with waves, they stood under oaks, guests a rainbow weave. Theo ringbearer, scattering petals like spells. Emma's words. Love is an absence of storm but sailing through. Rings exchanged, kisses sealed. The kiss under arches, a vow renewed for all. Reception swirled with toasts, Mama visiting, voice quavering pride. Riley's quip on Harlan chaos is feature, not bug. Dance floor throbbed. Theo twirling Lila till breathless. Emma watched from sidelines, Juliet's absence a gentle ache, softened by Lila's glow. Later, under stars, Lila pulled her aside. You gave me this, the brave yes. Tears mingled, hug eternal. Winter brought quiet fruits. Emma's third book conceived. Memoir hybrid, currents of kin, blending Harlan's saga with queer pedagogy. Agent buzzed. This'll resonate. Readings previewed at Powell's. Crowds sharing kin estrangements. Catharsis collective. Theo's therapy, post-play anxiety yielded growth. His drawings of super sisters pinned to fridge. Monroe's final chapter closed in February. Riverland Trust established. Juliet's name on the deed. Eco-preserve blooming. Lila and Emma dedicated a bench by water. Plaque reading. For sisters who return. Dedication sparse but sincere. Clara presiding. Juliet's legacy, unity and flow. Mama laid flowers, Theo skipping stones. Tell Aunt Jules hi. Spring circled back, garden thriving, tomatoes promising bounty. Emma's desk overflowed, words cascading. Dreams of Juliet, now collaborations, co-walks, shared laughter. The scar? A constellation, points connecting Theo's curiosity. Riley's stead, Lila's fire, Kai's verse. One dusk, family gathered porchside, fireflies conjured in jars. Theo's question. What's family mean? Emma pondered, gaze on the river distant in mind. The ones who defend, leave, return, and love through all. Nods rippled, hands linked. In that web Emma found absolution. Not erasure of pain but its transmutation to purpose. Years layered but the core endured. Mending what society rends, choosing fierce over fear. Harlan's ever-flowing carved canyons of compassion. Their story a testament. Love, forbidden or frail, triumphs in persistence. And in Portland's perpetual rain, Emma walked on, umbrella furled, face to the sun.